Hello and welcome to another edition of Sports Talk Philadelphia here on LaSalle TV. I'm your host, Josh Abrams, and today we're going to talk about a potential Flyers turnaround after a really sluggish break. And then we're going to come back and talk about the Sixers and their turnaround in a positive way. All that and much more. Stay tuned.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Welcome back from the introduction. Today I have an amazing panel to talk some Flyers. With me I have Tyler Small and Sam Brown. And guys, I don't even know what to say at this point. I know we're starting to finally put together some wins, but there was a solid 2.5 week stretch, maybe even more, where we just could not secure a win. What do you guys think has been the leading factor to that?
I appreciate them putting these last few wins together, but I can't really say that I'm optimistic about this next stretch, especially coming up after this bye week that they're on, because, yeah, they say that a break is good for a team and maybe get some wins right after that. But, you know, the Flyers in their history of coming right out of long stretches without playing, it's not good.
No, not at all. And going into All-Star break, like you're talking about, only having one All-Star on the team that's actually going to be playing there is really a struggle. Hopefully they could correct some things, get the new coaching, because they have everyone in the front office that's new now. And hopefully they could just get something together, get back on track, and not go on another 2-week stretch.
Yeah, it certainly seems like we're starting to fall into this trend where Claude Giroux is the only person that represents the Flyers in the All-Star break, maybe even the entire weekend. Mm-hmm. But let's look at I guess we could start anywhere really. The defense, as we know, has always been an issue. Are you guys more frustrated with the fact that we just cannot be consistent on defense, or is it just the fact that they're not providing enough, even like on the offensive side? Well, what is it about this defense to you guys?
I think the defense is the biggest hole in the team right now. They're not giving their goalies enough to play with. When they went out to Canada for this recent road trip, when they got crushed 7-1 by Winnipeg, and then they got beaten pretty bad by Vancouver and Edmonton in the games following that, that's not all on the goalie. And when the defense doesn't play well, then the offense doesn't play well. So good defense is like the best foundation for a successful franchise, for a successful season.
I would certainly agree with that. And we started off the season on this show talking about how it's really on the goalies. Like, the goalies' numbers have been so poor, but you really can't blame the goalies, especially throughout this stretch where there's been such sloppy puck control on their own side of the ice. And Connor Hart now 12 games in, and he's had to deal with a lot. A lot of the goals just aren't his responsibility, and it's just a struggle for somebody that's succeeded so highly. It's going to be almost a mental challenge for the young kid, just trying to get in goal behind that defense.
I'm really glad you brought up Carter Hart because, I had been saying from the get-go that, we can talk about how bringing him up to the Flyers organization was going to, yes, it's going to help, obviously. He's obviously the most talented goalie that we've had in a while, at least with the most potential. But, I'm sure you guys understand that it's a given that the success isn't going to come right away. The fact that a lot of Flyers fans seemed like they really wanted to just bring him up, which I guess in this case, since we've been playing so poorly, it might not be the worst decision. But at the same time, you gotta be patient with it.
He was brought up to bring a spark, in a sense, and whether that spark has worked or not so far, it's also going to give him some very valuable ice time. It's going to give him some experience with NHL talent, and it's going to be a struggle in the beginning, but hopefully he can just start the future a bit.
And let's not make any mistake of it. He has looked really good, especially in those high-pressure situations at the end of games.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. This goalie situation's been a mess for years now, and it's only now that the front office is doing something that they should have done years ago.
Do you think this has something to do with the new face in the front office bringing up someone that young?
I think that the old people, Hextall and Hackstall, they were more traditionalists. They wanted to stick with what they had already had, whether instead of diving into the young talent in the AHL. I think this huge front office clean out has been the right move, and it's something that they should have done a long time ago.
It's a sign of a fresh start. You're right.
How do you feel about the new look in the front office?
I think it's good. I mean, again, like they're just trying to regenerate the team. They're trying to give them a spark, as I said earlier. And as it's not looking too great so far, it's still too early to tell, but it might be rebuilding time. So it might be time for us to start getting more players from Lehigh up on the ice, trying to get them more experience. Seeing the silver lining in some of our players, see who we'll keep for next year and who we might have to be selling on in this offseason. It's still too early to tell, in my opinion, but I think we might be getting to that point.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, going back to the point about Carter Hart's success, it kind of goes the same with the new faces in the front office. And new faces, it's very hard for them to matriculate that success and really make it a part of the team. Let's talk about James Van Riemsdyk. Sam, you had a point on him.
Yeah, so he has a good first game of the season, and then he goes down with the injury and misses 16 games. And then when he came back, he wasn't being the productive player they brought him in to be. He wasn't that 36-goal scorer that he was back in Toronto. But in the last few games, he's really turned it around. He recorded the hat trick against Minnesota in a stretch of 6 games where he has 6 goals, and now he's up to 22 points in 32 games after such a disappointing start. So good for the man.
Yeah, that's exactly one of the points of just the silver lining you see in that offense. And if you look at another player, Nolan Patrick, who's been pretty hot in his last couple of games, he had a magnificent goal in between the legs the other night. And just little things like that, you got to hold on to the positives when you have them on this team.
Yeah, I certainly agree. Now, when you look at the upcoming schedule and just like the look, just looking ahead at this team and what we're expecting for the rest of the season. We've been hurting our necks looking up from 8th place for a while now. Is there any chance at all, especially with these next games that we have coming up? Is there any chance that we can make any kind of playoff noise? Any faith at all?
Well, they do have some tough opponents coming up. They have to face Boston in Boston. They're going out west. I mean, they're hosting teams from the West again, and their record against West, especially the Canadian teams, because Vancouver and Edmonton are coming to Philadelphia in this next stretch, and they've proven to be tough opponents for the Flyers, so they got to be ready to play.
Any team in the NHL has really been a struggle for the Flyers, but I think Winnipeg is another team that's going to be tough coming up very soon.
Doesn't that seem kind of strange to you guys? I guess I always say that hockey is one of those sports where you just never know what's going to happen, and that's just a cliche that goes for all professional sports. But teams like Winnipeg, even Buffalo for a little bit, those teams are these teams that we've never seen make this kind of noise before are doing so in 2018-19. Do any of those dark horse teams concern you guys? Obviously, Boston, the Rangers, all the teams in the Eastern Conference that we're familiar with are going to be tough. But what about those kind of teams like Winnipeg and Buffalo and Dallas and all those kind of teams?
So the team that I think that the Flyers should be most worried about in the Eastern Conference is Buffalo, and to a lesser extent Carolina, because they always have trouble with Carolina, no matter how good or bad each team is. So they can't underestimate what they're up against at all.
That was exactly my team too. The Sabres have just been phenomenal this season. They have slowed down of late, but they have been doing a lot more than the Flyers have, I should say. Just put it nicely.
Now, obviously, this really hasn't been as hot of a topic around Philadelphia, given the Eagles news and the Sixers news and all that kind of stuff. But I have seen articles that have brought up potential trade options for Claude Giroux. Personally, I think we should try and keep him here as long as we possibly can. But what do you guys think? I know he's been the face of this franchise for however long now. I think it would just be wrong to get rid of him, but what do you guys think?
I think at this point you have to keep him, just given his contract and given it's not going to improve the team in any way. Just given
getting rid of him.
Getting him off the team, what good is that going to do if they're interested in next season and the couple seasons after that instead of waiting for a handful of years.
I think you need to keep him, keep Hart perhaps, and everyone else can be free. Anyone else could have an option to be traded to somewhere just to try and get pieces around him, younger pieces that could hopefully combine for a unit around him who has been your franchise player for years.
Sure. And I would like to think that they would keep guys like Voracek
Right.
or Simmons. But they do have a lot of young guys, too. What do you guys think about the young guys like Nolan Patrick, Goss? There's just so many on the team.
This is exactly their season to grow. I mean, it depends on the asking price for some of these older, bigger names that have some of the top point scorers right now on the team. So if they are willing to take a little bit of a pay cut so we could sign a bigger name, or we can really let these Nolan Patricks or anybody else grow, these younger players, it's exactly what we need to do.
And along with keeping Giroux around, I think it's time to move on from some of the household names that we've come come to learn. I'm sorry, but I'd be willing to give up Simmons, willing to give up Jake Voracek if it means more growth for guys. Like if it means more growth for guys like Nolan Patrick and Ivan Provorov and Konechny.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But first, we got to play out the rest of the season. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, it's going to be time to talk some Sixers. Stay tuned.
Tell me you didn't watch the Phillies game last night.
You know, unfortunately I did, and it was just so heartbreaking to see the first 8 batters strike out.
Claude Giroux hasn't done anything for this organization.
I'm confused. You're doing an internship in sort of marketing and production, right?
I really can't believe that Ben Simmons won't be dropping threes on the court this year.
Hey, Tanya, I know you're really busy, but could you tell me who the Sixers play on October 28th?
Doctor, in order for the Eagles to win this week, they're going to need 250 passing yards from Carson Wentz. We're going to need 100 yards rushing. I don't care who it is. We're going to need a lot of good production from our tight end and wide receivers. And I'm going to need 5 interceptions from Malcolm Jenkins.
Yeah. Mom, look, I know the money situation isn't good right now, but I promise you Travis Konechny's going to have a breakout year.
Hey, I had to climb to the top of Mount Everest to find Nick Pavetta's ERA.
Sports Talk Philadelphia. We talk nothing but sports all the time.
Welcome back from the commercial break. We have a sort of a different panel here to talk some Sixers. Tyler stayed with us, but Jake Kopstick and Dave Roberts, they're joining us today. And guys, I'm happy with how winter break went, solely because of how the Sixers did. 13-7 record, some tough losses here and there, a couple games without Jimmy Butler. A lot of stuff happened over break that we weren't able to recap weekly. So let's just get our general thoughts out. How do you guys feel after watching the games over this break and even leading up to this show?
Seeing what they've done so far, I think the best is yet to come. I think that they're still growing. I think that they're still meshing as a unit, and they're getting a lot of guys that haven't done a thing. I didn't even know Corey Brewer was on the team a couple days ago, and then he shut down, in air quotes, James Harden, because it's impossible to shut him down.
Right.
But he was a defensive presence. Wilson Chandler won us the game last night. I mean, the best is yet to come with this team.
Yeah, going off what Tyler said, I do believe the best is yet to come. Fultz, Zaire Smith, Justin Patton, they're still rehabbing and getting healthy, so they're not even at full strength yet. And they're winning games without Jimmy Butler. So I like what I've seen so far, but they're only going to get better.
Yep.
Yeah, I think, obviously we're still young. There's some, like you said, there's some tough losses. There's games you can see we're really into it, and all of a sudden we just give it up. And that's because we're a young team. That's just something that happens. But you can clearly see that you know, in the crunch time of the season, you know, February, April, March, like all that, it's gonna be some crucial games I think that we're gonna be able to win and take care of.
So I guess looking at the season leaders for the team, not much has changed, guys. I mean, Embiid in my eyes is still top 3 MVP candidate in the league right now. Simmons and Butler. Simmons is still a triple-double machine. I think he got his like 8th or 9th last night. We're seeing the same guys show up on the stat sheet, like headline-wise, but there are just so many young guys, just like you guys mentioned. Who are you looking at in terms of the best production off the bench, even in the starting lineup? You know, who's your star besides the stars that we know of already?
I would have to go right back to Corey Brewer. I mean, he's been a great defensive presence. He's averaging about 8 points off the bench, and he came into the starting lineup, and it's like they didn't even skip a beat without missing Jimmy Butler as opposed to him, which obviously is a drop-off, but it really didn't feel like it. And, I mean, just everyone on this bench, and then the bench, as you just pointed out, it's going to grow. We're going to come back to full health. So Brewer has definitely been my dark horse that's been the best so far.
For me, I got to look at Landry Shamet. He had 14 last night. He had 18 to blow out over the Rockets. He's been on fire from three-point range.
How about that one game he had? Right, wasn't it like 8 of 14 from 3?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, he went 8 threes. That was such a gem they found at the end of the first round, and I'm so glad the Sixers have him.
Yeah.
Dave?
I was staring off into space thinking about all the players because he took Landry Shamet. I was like, I lost my guy. I mean, how do you not love TJ still? He still does so much stuff that is like I don't like. How do you even like?
He's been like the 6th man off the bench.
Yeah,
now.
he's really been the 6th man that like if he leaves, I'm actually gonna be devastated because like the whole city loves him.
And that honestly might be a possibility given, you know, you mentioned Fultz and Zaire Smith, Justin Patton. Like, is Justin Patton even going to be a part of this? I mean, obviously he's a different position now that I think about it, but you know, everyone loves TJ because he tries. You know, and it's so like weird to say that because you're a professional basketball player. How you know you had to try to get there, and you know you get there, you don't think you need to do it anymore. Go ahead.
Did you tell him your Christmas gift?
What?
Your TJ McConnell jersey.
Oh yeah. I got a red TJ McConnell jersey for Christmas.
So clearly, that's what I'm saying. Because so clearly, a player like him coming off the bench, being the 6th man, like, and you're getting a jersey, like that's something really unheard of unless you're like Lou Williams. So like, I think he's a very important piece for this team, very much. Like moving forward.
Yeah, and it's just a shame that he might not be here. I really want him to, but looking at the potential of Fultz and Smith getting healthy. You know, we don't know what we obviously know Shamet's going to be a crucial part of this team, but you just hope that there's one more spot for him. You know, looking at the schedule ahead, we're in the midst of a really, really tough, I think it's like a 13, 14 game stretch. These are just the next 3 games that will be played out until our next show. And all 3 are on the road against the top 2 teams in the West. And I don't know if LeBron's going to be back for that Laker game or not. It doesn't really look like it. It's almost like Fultz, where we haven't really heard. Or at least we didn't hear a lot about the injury. We're 5-1 so far in this stretch. How do you guys feel so far?
I feel mostly worried about that Denver game coming up. They have just Murray and Jokic. Yeah, thank you. And they've just been dominating together. Like, that's definitely going to be our toughest one, especially there. It's tough to win there. And I would even be more worried about that than Golden State, even though I think they're going to be in the finals again next season, but this year, I should say.
Right.
But they're definitely the toughest competitor coming up.
I have to strongly disagree. Like, when you're going to play against 5 guys who could be on the first team on a first team All NBA team in the Warriors, that's easily your toughest opponent. So, I think Denver. I mean, obviously being the best team in the West is going to be hard. That Lakers game, I think they'll roll over them without LeBron and without Lonzo. But yeah, Warriors are the toughest opponent. I think they could maybe have some matchups with them that they would like to put on the court, but.
I'm excited to see Boogie against Embiid.
Yeah,
that's going to be a great matchup.
I really want to see that, but that Warriors game, that's easily the toughest.
Back. Yeah, he is.
Forgot about that.
That's a scary sight. I feel good. I mean, obviously we have to worry about Denver because it's Denver. We have to worry about the Warriors because it's the Warriors. The Lakers, if LeBron plays, probably not. We have to worry about that. But I feel really fine. It's because I mean, I saw some statistic that we're doing really well against the West right now, and every time we played them. So maybe it's just a thing that we're really good against the West, and we just can't do anything in our own conference. But I feel like we should maybe maybe steal a win from Denver. I don't know about the other two. Maybe the Lakers, but
I mean, we're right in the middle of a really tough stretch right now. But like I said, we're 4-1 in these 5 games so far, and the only loss was a 2-point loss to OKC.
That we should not have lost.
Right, exactly. So obviously there's still some work to do, but I feel good as well. I think this tough stretch is going to make or break the season, and so far they're making the most of it. But even though it's not, we got to talk about this. Jimmy Butler, guys. There was an article that came out today by Jackie McMullen, who works for ESPN, saying that he is on really thin ice with Philly. Do you guys agree?
I think Philly's on thin ice with him. I think he's somebody that we need if we're going to make a run in this playoffs. And Jimmy Butler, every single team he goes to, he has a problem with them at some point, whether this Brent Brown incident was as bad as he made it or that all the analysts made it or not.
Right.
It's just we really need to cater to his needs. And I think that everything has been rolling. I mean, the team's been winning, and they've looked good with or without him. Right. But in his eyes, he still sees something that should be different, and he's a very assertive person, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, I have to agree with Tyler. I mean, with or without him, the Sixers have still been able to win games, with Jimmy Butler. But he's a competitive guy, and if you're not up to his standards or you're not playing up to the way he feels you should be, he's going to let you know about it. So I don't know if he's just causing havoc all the time. I think he's just a competitive guy, and that's just what comes out of competition.
Yeah, I mean, his nickname is Jimmy Buckets, and he hasn't been scoring as much as we wanted him to, and it's because of the type of system that Brett Brown was enforcing on him. So I feel like him vocalizing something and saying, hey, use me to your best advantage is the best thing he could have done. Because if he stayed quiet, we could have been the team that was like, all right, we didn't use one of our best players to our advantage. Like, we could have been even more. So I feel like now that he said something, we can see that these wins are coming up in a better way, or like even just these losses, or you can see that he's putting like more of an effort out because he actually like wants to actually do the stuff that Brett Brown wanted to do now. So it's a good switch.
I just think that kind of headline is a little bit misleading because of what you said, Jake, him being competitive and wanting to win games. Like, you can't just like paint that in a negative way because all he wants to do is win. And what's negative about wanting to win, But I guess looking ahead for the Sixers, I think the 3 seed is there for the taking, especially because of what happened last night. You guys saw what happened to Oladipo. Just an absolutely horrific knee injury, one that we don't really see a lot. No. ACLs, MCLs are the common injuries, but he had it's a torn quad now. Yeah. With him out, I mean, the 3 seed's right there for the taking. We were only a game or so back.
Which, I mean, even if he was healthy, I feel like we're the type of team that we could have snuck the 3rd seed anyway. So we did that last year. We were supposed to be 4 or 5, and we just kept winning. We came up to the 3rd seed. So I feel like even if he was healthy, we would got the 3rd seed. But now since he's out, there's only 4 teams right now that are going to absolutely be top 4: the Raptors, the Bucks, us, and the Celtics. It's just all going to take into account where we're going to line up at the end of the season. So I feel like we go 3. We could even finesse 2nd. I'm looking on the positive side.
All 4 of those teams that you have listed, as we were saying that we're not even to our best point yet, so are those 3 teams. They're finally hitting stride too. The Celtics are finally looking like the Celtics. The Raptors are good with or without Kawhi. And the Bucks, I think, are a very underrated threat. So it's going to be a great race. I think it's going to be fun for NBA fans. But
where do you see us finishing, Jake?
I think they could really sneak up to 2nd. I can't believe the Celtics are saying they have too much talent. I've never heard anybody ever use that term before. I don't think that's actually a thing. So I think if the Celtics are just going to keep bickering with each other, and there's going to be a lot of tension in the organization, I feel like the Sixers could definitely slip up to 2. But talent-wise, I feel like Boston's the advantage over them. So that way, I think they could be the 3rd seed. But
I think
somewhere between 2 or 3, I think they could be.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. As long as we don't have to play Boston again in the 2nd round. I want to wait for the conference finals to face them.
Yep.
But that's going to wrap it up for Sixers Talk. We're going to move right into Fast 5. And Tyler, we're going to come to you. It's felt like an eternity since Harper and Machado left their teams. Or left, should I say. So
never know.
I mean, it looks like we're going to get Harper, but we don't know. What do you think?
First off, I'm sick of talking about them, so I'm glad you said it like that. But I think for a fact that we're out on Machado. It looks like Gene Segura is going to be our opening day starter. Rhys Hoskins is now going to be in the infield, so it opens up the outfield spot for Harper. But if we do miss on him, even though we've been pushing the entire offseason, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world because there's a center fielder in Los Angeles that's a free agent after this season that does have season tickets to the Eagles. So I'll leave it at that.
That's pretty funny. That's some good implications there. Jake, we're going to come to you. The Eagles announced that they're going to bring Doug Peterson, Mike Groh, and Jim Schwartz back. How do you feel about that overall? Is there any part of that you don't like?
No, I think it's good for the Eagles. I don't really think there was a reason to necessarily change anything. Toward the end of the year, Jim Schwartz was able to rush 4 guys, leave his corners on an island, and like Cravon LeBlanc and all those other guys started stepping up and playing well. So I don't see that. I don't think there was a reason for change. I'm glad they kept all 3. And, I mean, with a healthy team, I think they'll be right back in the playoffs next year.
I'd like to agree with that. All right, Dave, we're going to start with you, and we'll come right back around. Super Bowl predictions. Super Bowl 53, the Rams and the Patriots. It's a rematch of, 35 or something, 17 years ago. Yeah. Brady's facing a brand-new Rams team. What do you think?
I feel like if the stars are aligned right, so we got our revenge last year because they beat us in 2005. I feel like the Rams this time is their revenge. So I feel like the Patriots got out of theirs in the first part of the 2000s. Now I feel like it's all the teams like who got beaten. It's time for them to get their revenge. So I'm all for the Rams, 30-24.
All right.
That's how I see it.
Jake, I don't know if I can give you a score prediction, but I just think the Rams are going to win. You know, you give a legendary coach like Wade Phillips 2 weeks to prepare. Sean McVay, so creative, such a hard guy to prepare for. You look over at New England. They say everybody's getting old. Their defensive coordinator, Brian Flores, only has to play one more game. He's going to be head coach in Miami. So, hey, maybe he's overlooking them. But he can't because that offense is too good. So I'm going to go with the Rams, maybe by a field goal because, hey, Greg Zuerlein could probably nail one from 75.
Tyler, real quick, your prediction.
I'd have to go with a 24-18 margin. I have to say it, Patriots. I think it only comes down to Gurley not being healthy and Goff being a game manager at best.
Dave's ready to throw his pen at you.
I'm throwing all my stuff at you when we're done.
That's going to do it for Fast 5. We're going to thank you guys for tuning in and shout out to Roy Halladay for finally getting into the Hall of Fame, a much-deserved accolade for him. You can catch us on Twitter at SportsTalk LTV as well as Facebook, YouTube, and LaSalle.edu/LaSalleTV. No, I'm not saying it. Thank you guys for tuning in. We hope you have an amazing weekend, and we'll see you next week.